o'clock, and it is 6 o'clock. So good evening to all the residents of Tempe. And of course, this is focused on 85281. As you know, I go throughout the city to the various zip codes and talk to folks and find out what their needs are. Tempe's a very diverse city. So every neighborhood is unique. So that's why it's so important for me to go to every single zip code. So thanks for everyone that's participating. Unfortunately, we had to do a virtual meeting again this evening, but I think we're almost done. Hopefully, fingers crossed that we can start meeting in person. I know I really miss seeing everyone, and I do have some laryngitis, I think is a leftover from COVID. So I'm hoping that goes away, but I apologize about my voice if it's more squeaky than normal. Special thanks also to our guests this evening. We have Jessica Wright, Levon Lammy, Commander John Thompson, Lieutenant Michael Hayes, and the Assistant City Manager or Deputy City Manager Rosa Chowsty. I have to tell you a little story that Lieutenant Hayes and Rosa and myself used to work in Human Services back in the day. The three of us did, and we had a lot of fun. And so it's like old home week tonight with my fellow colleagues. Also, we will be taking questions this evening in the chat room because we are virtual. So we will be taking those questions. If there any questions aren't answered, we will follow up with you. So no question is a bad question. So please feel free to ask whatever you need. Tonight we're going to address homelessness, housing, police. We're going to hear from the deputy city manager, Rosa Chowsty, and then I'm going to do my top 10 list. So with that, I will turn it over to Jessica, who is kicking us off this evening. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams, for having us. I appreciate you taking the time to give us the opportunity to showcase what our team's doing.
You bet. I'm excited to hear your presentation.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that I can get a couple of slides up there for just what we're going to be talking about. All right. So I'm here to present on the Homeless Solutions updates. And like I said, I'm very thankful to have the opportunity to be here on this. The team that I get to work with is working very hard in the community to do our best to really end homelessness for every individual that is experiencing homelessness in the city of Tempe. So just to go over a little bit of information about HOPE, we were established in 2006 with 2 part-time outreach specialists. Tempe's homeless outreach prevention effort, HOPE, has now expanded recently, and we're going to talk about that just a little bit later, a little bit more in detail. Currently, we have 11 HOPE specialists now, and our HOPE specialists provide street outreach, case management, but most importantly, a direct access to shelter for individuals that are experiencing homelessness. That is our main goal, is to connect individuals experiencing homelessness with shelter and housing. So our team is providing street outreach primarily as their main responsibility throughout the week. We have ongoing engagements with individuals. We know that when we meet folks on the street, whether it's the first time, especially when it's the first time, it is important for us to be building rapport. A lot of times folks are very untrusting with individuals approaching them on the street or providers, because there's been times that providers may be in the past have not fulfilled their responsibilities or connected them with what they promised. So our team works really, really hard to build rapport through all sorts of different ways, engaging on the street, offering resources, offering services, with an ultimate goal of connecting individuals with shelter and housing. Some of the services that we offer include things like obtaining vital documentation, connecting folks with mental health resources or medical resources, completing housing evaluations and surveys, and providing navigation through housing programs. We, again, most importantly, provide shelter, and our main goal is to have enough engagement with an individual that they are willing to say yes and accept shelter services with us. So within the city of Tempe, we're fortunate enough to have had our mayor and council really invest in this initiative. We're very committed to making homelessness rare, brief, and one time for anybody that's experiencing that in the city. And so with that, we have a non-congregate shelter and a temporary transitional housing facility currently within the city of Tempe. Our temporary housing facility, where residents have already moved in, they're very, very satisfied with the actual conditions and the location and the service that's being offered from that shelter. We're getting a lot of positive feedback. We do have 2 Hope Outreach specialists providing case management and support at that shelter throughout the week. We have some operational spaces that are still in process, and we're anticipating those to be completed within the next upcoming weeks. And really, that shelter space does maintain occupancy at full capacity because when we have an availability, our Hope Outreach team is out in the streets speaking with individuals experiencing homelessness and offering those spaces. So when we have an individual or a family even that is experiencing homelessness, we can take them and put them either directly into one of these facilities or one of the other available shelter opportunities through partnering nonprofits that Tempe has also chosen to provide funding to. And then in our non-congregate shelter, we're just finalizing the operational and programmatic preparation steps so that we can begin filling the 55 rooms that we have available there. Another huge item within our department and our team is our ASU partnership. So this is something that really was finalized and in play starting January 1st. And it allowed us to expand our Hope Outreach team from 9 members to 11 members. And our recruitment process is currently, it's in process. We have some vetted folks that we're excited to be putting through the recruitment process at this time. What this also allowed us to do is take a strategic approach to our street outreach. What that means for us is we divided the city of Tempe into 4 geographical zones, each one with a dedicated Hope team. That means that we're going to have a consistent presence in those areas that we have made smaller for these dedicated teams. Basically, this funding has also allowed us to extend our coverage from 5 days a week to 7 days a week, so that we have folks doing outreach to individuals experiencing homeless every day of the week in the city. The major impacts that we're really excited about since January 1st implementation is, first off, a more even distribution of Hope Outreach efforts. Like I said, splitting the city into the 4 geographic zones allows us to have focused efforts in those areas, which often, it increases the Hope presence. People will see individuals from our Hope Outreach team throughout the community, in the streets, at bus stops, talking with individuals and offering to connect them with services. And ultimately, like I said, taking them and putting them in shelter when they are willing to accept shelter with us. And us having these 4 dedicated zones, also, it really helps facilitate more frequent and proactive engagements with individuals that are experiencing homelessness. What that means is it gives us more opportunities to build that rapport, to build that trust, and to work with individuals to connect them with the resources they need to get into housing or to go and connect directly into shelter. Even just today, I was speaking with a Hope Outreach specialist who has scheduled an appointment with somebody to take them to get their vital docs, their ID, so that they are ready to get into housing. And we're excited that we're going to be able to connect them with that resource this week. One other event that recently happened was the City of Tempe's point in time count. And so that occurred on January 25th. And we started bright and early at 5:30 in the morning and went until about 12 to 12:30 p.m., where we had a great number of volunteers from the community within the city as well, who all trained together on one of 2 different dates. And then we had the opportunity to canvass the city. The city, like I said, we split it up into some individual targeted areas so that the entire city was covered. Multiple teams went out into each of these areas and they spoke with individuals that are experiencing homelessness. In 2020, there were 400 individuals that were identified experiencing homelessness in the streets of Tempe. Excuse me, it's just under 400 and I believe 396. So approximately 400. This year, we were excited to be able to open up the opportunity to have volunteers participate, and we were able to do a very thorough count. Um, we had some preliminary data in real time that we are excited for what we saw. The information that we got, it really is informative for our team, and we're waiting on some additional information and data, the finalized numbers to come from MAG in the upcoming weeks. But the initial data shows only a small increase from the 2020 point in time count of just under 400 individuals. So we're excited to share that information as soon as we receive the finalized numbers. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Levon Lamey, and thank you all for your time. And I will stop sharing my screen as well.
Okay. Just curious, Jessica, before we move on, can you, like, when people don't accept help, because I know sometimes that's the case, like, well, how do you approach that? Can you explain that?
Absolutely. We do encounter that often throughout the day. And so what we're doing is those frequent engagements help to build rapport. What we start with sometimes is just checking in on people. Are you okay? You know, how are you doing? Are you hungry? Can we connect you with some food? How about an additional, a blanket or something to help with your immediate needs? And then while we're doing that, we open the conversation up to talking about what their needs are for housing and resources and start to build that conversation. Again, sometimes that doesn't happen on the first conversation. So we're there daily interacting with these folks, sometimes multiple times a day, checking in with them, trying to open that door of conversation for them to be willing to engage with us and be willing to accept the shelter and housing options that we can get them immediately into through us.
Well, and aren't you finding that since you guys have divided the city up into the four sections that you are able to establish better rapport because the same outreach counselors are going to with the same people? Is that helping a lot?
It is helping. It definitely is helping a lot, and we're excited about that partnership and the ability to take this strategic approach in the street outreach that we're doing. You know, more frequent and proactive engagements is exactly what helps connect folks and build that trust for folks to actually say yes and accept shelter and move into housing and ending their homelessness.
Very good. Thank you so much, Jessica, for your presentation. I really appreciate it. And then we're going to move to Levon. Is that correct? That's what I
Yes.
have. Okay. All right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
If you could stay on for any questions that might come up, that would be great.
I absolutely will.
Okay. All right, Levon, let's turn it over to you.
All right, good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, I appear to be having some Wi-Fi issues, so when I turn on my camera, everything starts to stall and static. So I apologize for that. But my name is Levon Lamey. I am one of the Deputy Directors for Human Services, but I'm specifically assigned to Housing Services. And in the housing update, I kind of wanted to break that up a little bit. So that for one, on the housing services side, I wanted to make sure that we kind of touched on, housing services and its role in working with HOPE and housing folks who are currently homeless. In the, as part of the temporary transitional housing facility and or the non-congregate facility that the city has, as folks are in there and they're receiving the supportive services and securing whatever documents may be needed in order to get into a more permanent housing solution. We do work, the housing services staff do work with them in order to evaluate which of the multiple housing programs that they may be eligible for. Tempe Housing Services administers 9 separate housing programs. The majority of them are federal programs, and also has connections into some other programs throughout the state that are funded by Access or, depending on Access or behavioral health, depending on the individual needs. So working so that these, folks are moved into a more permanent housing solution as appropriate for them. We also do evaluate some the housing choice voucher, which definitely is a waitlist program, appropriateness for that, and make sure that folks are apprised of when that waiting list would be opening. Our tenant-based rental assistance program, which is another one of the programs that's focused really on self-sufficiency in a 24-month program in order to provide subsidy assistance for 24 months. And then you would be, kind of in a situation to where you would no longer need assistance. So, trying to make sure that we're providing those longer-term permanent housing solutions for folks as they move through the process. On a broader housing item or housing items that we do on a citywide basis, we are working with the affordable housing impact statements, working with developers as they are looking at bringing their projects in, discussing ways that we may or may not be able to include affordable or workforce housing in their projects, if there's funding available through the Hometown for All initiative, ways that we can help incentivize that. Currently, some of our larger projects that are going to be coming to fruition sooner rather than later are 5 properties on Apache Boulevard that the city has undertaken the environmental clearance process for, which the phase 1 of that at this time is currently scheduled to be completed in April. These sites would, at maximum density, not saying they'll be built to maximum density, but at maximum density, could support up to 390 units of additional multifamily housing. Those phase 1s, again, are expected to be done in April, which at that point we would then move into any phase 2 or mitigation that may or may not be required to get those projects started through the DRC and the building process. So we are working to expedite the development of affordable housing units with some of these, pre-clearing the land and getting some of those roadblocks out of the way. We are also working through, in addition to that, has been the recent acquisition of the Food City Plaza on Apache at Dorsey. Ultimately, that is looking to be redeveloped into a multifamily, affordable, and or workforce. We are starting the process on that property to do the building conditions assessment report to determine the overall status of that building. And once we know that overall condition, we would be moving forward with the process to start engaging the community on what that redevelopment would look like. And again, not saying that it would be, but if, at maximum density for that site, that could hold up to an additional 250 to 300 units on that site. So all in, we have between the units that are in the works with environmental clearances, units that we're processing, and starting the process on to get them in a development ready state. There are just under 850 units in development that should be coming online here within the next few years. And of course, we are always looking at properties, parcels for some type of acquisition or incentivization in order to get more units up and running and in the inventory to help kind of ease some of the overall availability of housing units. And I'll kind of stop there and see if anybody had any questions. Or Councilmember Adams, was there anything that you wanted me to kind of go into more detail on with the overall?
Yes. Sorry, I'm just trying to get unmuted. Yes, I have a question, Levon, and maybe Jessica too. Where does North Tempe, north of Rio Salado, fit into the 4-zone strategy? Just to explain that to the residents, I think that would be helpful.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
It is in our north zone of Tempe. We have basically the 4 zones are split into north, east, west, and a downtown ASU zone.
Oh, so northeast, northwest, and then downtown. So that's only 3 zones. Am I
No, I'm
confused?
sorry, I might have misspoken. Excuse me.
Okay,
There is a north zone, and
okay,
then there is an east zone and a west zone, and as well as a downtown ASU zone.
okay, I got you. I probably just misunderstood, Jessica. Okay, I think that's important for people to know, like how things are divided up. I didn't even know that, so that's really good news.
Councilmember
Just
Adams?
another question about like Section 8. Like, can people, how does Section 8 work with getting people housed as far as their incomes and things like that? How's that going?
So with the housing choice voucher or Section 8 program, it is an income-based program. And so a lot of it is, oh gosh, let me try to think of how to. So a lot of housing folks depends on what their income is. We have a payment standard that is established based on the fair market rents. Those are established by HUD. At the current time, we have received a waiver from HUD and we have moved our payment standards to 119% of the fair market rents, which puts us a little bit closer to market than what we were at 100% FMR. We did that intentionally because of the rising rents, and because we know that it's getting more challenging for folks to find units. We do have 2 full-time housing navigators whose primary function is to be out in the community, engaging with landlords, explaining the program, because housing choice, Section 8 housing choice voucher is a voluntary program. So, they're out engaging with landlords, complexes, mom and pop landlords, trying to engage them, to get them to see if they have any interest in the program, in accepting these vouchers. The other side of that is they also work with individuals and families who are not only participants in housing programs, but general residents who may either call into human services, or may have connected with someone on city staff, and it's made its way into housing, to where we can help our housing navigators kind of help point them in the directions of units that they are aware of, that folks might be interested in going to look at. So we definitely, we are doing our best, and staff does their best to kind of, well, we don't match, but point folks in the direction of units that we're aware of, landlords that we know take the units. We do know that it is getting more difficult to find units for a lot of reasons. Again, which is why we raised that payment standard to 119% of the fair market rents, and have the 2 full-time housing navigators, and we are looking at bringing in a 3rd part-time housing navigator to help reinforce that networking and engagement of landlords, in order to make them aware and see if they would be willing to take the units. So I mean, it's we're addressing the issues as best we can, and supporting folks as much as possible.
Very good. Thank you for expanding on that a little bit for us. All right. So with that, we're going to transition now into Commander John Thompson and Lieutenant Michael Hayes for your presentation. So take it away.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams, very much. Molly, do you have the presentation? Maybe bringing it up here shortly? And we will be working on sharing that screen. But essentially what I want to go into here with myself and Lieutenant Hayes is we want to share the philosophy of the Tempe Police Department, as well and that of Chief Glover, and how we're utilizing personnel and resources to strive towards these goals that we're going to go over. Since Chief Anderson is also on the call, although myself and Lieutenant Hayes will be presenting. And Molly, if you don't mind, let's go to the next slide. Excellent. So what you can all see here, this is Chief Glover's the 3 C's philosophy. This is what we all use as a paradigm as we're working through decision making and how we're going to address issues within the community. And the first part here is community policing. I'm sure it's a term that everyone has heard. And essentially defined here, we are seeking strategies that rely upon the community police relationship. And it's that relationship, that partnership, that is a key word there, in order to problem solve together and proactively address issues that arise having to do with crime and the fear of crime. And part of this, and you see there in quotes, is neighborhood policing. That is essentially aligning officers to geographic areas of the city, geographic beats, so to speak, so that they can focus on their unobligated time within those boundaries and have an opportunity to get to know their neighbors. Community engagement is another emphasis that Chief Glover wants us to focus on. And as it says there, it's building alliances, working with the community, not just for the community, and realizing that there's an opportunity there that not every contact that the police department has with the community has to be a result of an emergency call for service or a tragedy, and to seek out and find those opportunities for us to interact positively with the community to build that trust and legitimacy. And then the last part here is collaborative leadership, ensuring the organization is working together constructively to focus on achieving all of the organizational goals that we have and the community goals. So I'm going to turn it over to the next slide. Molly, if you want to transition to the next slide, and we'll turn it over to Lieutenant Hayes to cover this part.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Yes, my name is Mike Hayes. I'm a lieutenant with the police department. The interesting thing is, how do you do all this, right? Like, this is a big shift in how we're doing police work, and it's a really great change for our department and for the city. And so some of the things that we've done recently is obviously we've tried to increase that beat officer engagement. And one of the things that we did several years ago, as most of you know, was to go from larger zones to smaller beats. One of the things that we wanted to accomplish in that is have kind of like what Councilwoman Adams was saying before about building relationships, about being in smaller areas and being able to meet people and to engage with them and build those relationships, to be able to solve root issues rather than trying to keep like an enforcement mentality as a problem solving method. So that was one of the big changes we did. The other change we did, as Commander Thompson relayed, was trying to work towards neighborhood policing strategies. And so our beat officers, our expectations for them are to become much more highly visible in those areas, to connect with community members, going to different events, going to parks, being around the neighborhoods much more, and once again, trying to build those relationships. On a daily basis, those officers are pretty much expected to go look at the chronic issues in their areas and solve problems that are in those areas at the root level and be proactive rather than just being reactive quite a bit. One of the things that we've tried up in the Beat 11 in the North Tempe area, as an example of that, is we've assigned officers to each business along Scottsdale Road in a micro beat area, which is a smaller area in Beat 11 that has been having issues for a long time. The hopes in that is that they're able to work daily with those business managers at those businesses and to try to solve those problems quickly, rather than just being reacting and going to calls for service in those areas. As you guys all know, though, the beat officers are pretty busy and they're going to calls for service quite a bit. And so the Chief Glover has done a really good job implementing a new group of police officers as well as professional staff that are part of the Chief's Office of Community Policing. That's a unit that is assigned to work with patrol, and on a daily basis, that's their job, is to they will work with the patrol officers and the beat officers to solve problems at an even greater root level, because they have a little bit more expertise, training, and they have a little bit of time to be able to solve those issues at a really deep level for long-term change. And so it's a really good program that we're really excited to have. The good part about that is that it's a team effort, and that group is not just working with the police department to solve those issues. So the Chief's Office of Community Policing can work on a daily basis to work with all the other different areas within the city of Tempe, with all our partners, with ASU, with the Arizona Department of Transportation, all kinds of different areas to be able to solve those long-term issues rather than trying to solve it just on our own as a police department. So that kind of goes into a lot of the different aspects of how we're trying to engage the community and bring a community policing strategy to what we're doing each day.
All right, thank you, Mike. And the last slide here I'll go ahead and cover is when we're talking about community responders, the first part listed up here, we realized that there is an important role for unbadged, which can refer to as unarmed department representatives that can respond to nonviolent calls for service. And so we've called them as community responders. They would be trained to respond to such things as vehicle accidents, thefts where there may not be a suspect that's present, loose animal calls, parking violations, and they'd also assist with other areas of community engagement. We do expect that these positions will increase our total service and responsiveness to the community, and we also believe that it'll help to redistribute obligations from our officers so that they can focus on other aspects of community policing as well. So we are going to be accepting applications for that. So certainly if anyone here knows of anyone that is interested in something like that, or you want to look for more information, please do not hesitate to visit the Tempe Police Department website. Second part I wanted to touch on is Solari, and we have collaborated with this agency referred to as Solari, where they embed crisis responders into our dispatch center, our 911 center. And what is great about that is they're able to divert some of the calls directly over to a very highly trained professional right at the moment that a person is on the call to get resources to someone that may be having a mental health crisis, but otherwise is not necessarily a danger to others or doesn't necessarily immediately need a police response. So again, a lot of times us being able to work smart and utilize those resources and get people in touch with the professionals that they need to be in touch with. And then lastly is a mental health squad. We understand that there are going to be times where a person is going to need to be visited by law enforcement, by policing units that want to check on their welfare, and maybe Solari, for someone that may be having a weapon or something like that, it's not appropriate for someone that's unarmed to be going to that situation. But we also want very highly specialized, highly trained officers going to those scenes to de-escalate everything and again get people the help that they need. And what we want to do is we want to create a mental health squad. Highly specialized team to respond to these situations where someone's in crisis, and we are seeing an increase in calls where someone could benefit from mental health outreach. So certainly, like others have mentioned as well, we appreciate the efforts of human services as a valuable resource to find more sustainable solutions as well. So certainly, if anyone has any questions or comments for us, please let us know. There is a contact information there on the next slide to Molly Enright, and I'm sure many people on this call know Molly and know how awesome she is and how great it is for her to be on the team here. So thank you to Molly for all your assistance. And Councilmember Adams, thank you for hosting this, for all your support, and you and your council colleagues. Certainly, if anyone has any questions for us, let us know. We'd be happy to answer them.
Very good. I really appreciate everyone's presentation so far tonight. It's going great. And I know that we can't normally I like to be out in the community and have the meetings face to face, but obviously with this COVID business, it's really put a damper on it. But as soon as I can get back out there in person with people, I will be back out there. And I just really appreciate the police and human services being here tonight. And great presentation. So we might have some questions that come up in the chat. If we do, we can direct them to whomever it relates to. So anyway, with that, I will turn it over to our Deputy City Manager, Rosa Inchowski. Rosa?
Thank you, Councilmember Adams, and good evening, everyone. First and foremost, to our guests that are here tonight, thank you for joining us. We couldn't do this without you. And I think Councilmember Adams knows the importance of dialogue with our community to make sure that we have a pulse on everything that's going on in our city. Thanks to our staff for sharing their knowledge and expertise, because as you know, they have been working this for quite some time. As Councilmember Adams said, most of us started in the city many, many years ago in different positions, and we worked our way into different positions. So the good thing for all of us is that we get to know not only our jobs presently, but other departments we worked in, and also the community, because most of us live here in Tempe. So as Councilmember Adams mentioned, my role is as Deputy City Manager, and I wanted to say, as she has mentioned, these platforms are very tough, obviously, for dialogue and engagement, but off the bat, I want to share with all of you that Mayor Woods has been hosting some meetings in North Tempe, and actually we have another one scheduled for February 26th in person. And that's a Saturday at 3 o'clock in the cul-de-sac of Sunset Drive there. And we can put more information out to the residents, because I know it's very frustrating not to be able to engage in different ways. And I just wanted to share that with all of you, that you're more than welcome. And I hope that you do show up, because I'd love to meet you face to face and have some conversations about the things that are worrying you. I always say I've been a resident of Tempe for 30 years and actually an employee of 29 years. So this is not just a job. This is something that I'm dedicated to. So in brief, I don't want to create a PowerPoint or do any of that. I think our colleagues have shared a lot of data points and information, but I just wanted to share with you a little bit about what's changing in our city. And most definitely, one of the things that we have noticed with 2 years of disease and distrust in our nation is the importance of building trust with our community and within our departments regarding what community safety, what feeling safety feels like to different people. And we know we just had a meeting in North Tempe in one of the apartment complex, and many people had a variety of perspective of what they felt safe, whether they felt safe walking in the dark in the parking lot, or some of them approaching someone perhaps who is homeless and speaking to themselves. And some people were comfortable with that and others were not. And I am glad to say that it is, as you have heard here, it is really a group effort, because what we say is community safety is not just about the police department stepping in. It is a responsibility of all our departments and our community to make sure that we communicate as far as what is needed. So one of the things that hasn't been stated yet that I wanted to share with all of you, in North Tempe, you know that sometimes it's very difficult to acquire land. We're only 39 square miles, and we're in the process of looking of where we could have an additional substation in North Tempe. We're also looking at fire department needs another station, and all those are planning for growth. But until then, we wanted to find out if there was opportunities to create a tenant space that creates a space for our HOPE team, first and foremost, to help provide service right in the nucleus of that area, along with our police department. So on 1462 North Scottsdale Road, starting March 1st, that space will be there available to our staff. But more importantly, it is just an opportunity to engage with the residents and to be there available to respond to all the needs of that community. So that was one of the initiatives that came out actually of neighborhood conversations. And that actually came out about 7 months ago during those conversations. So if you ever think that things are not taken seriously, please know that we are listening and we are responding to the needs of our community. The other thing I wanted to share with all of you, there's a lot of things that we're working on. And one of them is recognizing that the unsheltered or homeless issues are not just a Tempe. We recognize that it's a state issue, it's a local issue, it's a national issue. If you have traveled outside the state in Seattle and California, you see these encampments and the struggles many cities are having. And we have now started, actually today, we have engaged Mayor Bloomberg out of New York, has created a think tank from Harvard who have selected Tempe to work this coming year. We started today to look at innovative ways to approach unsheltered. And it's almost starting from scratch. Not to say that our staff is not working fast and furiously. They are doing everything they can. It's just we know that this nation as a whole needs to start thinking differently about what is going on in our communities. So one of the outcomes, and I always talk about outcomes, what can you expect? We talked today about there will be 2 things that are pilots that are innovative that we are going to have to implement in Tempe, and we want to. That's why we signed up to do this. So staff is working on that, and that is various departments from the fire department to human services, police department. So our parks, because we know that there are many unsheltered in our parks. So please know that these concerns of yours are taken seriously, and that we're approaching this from all types of lenses. So with that, Councilmember Adams, I will turn it back to you and see if there's any questions that I can help answer or explore.
I really appreciate your feedback. And, you know, the Bloomberg, you know, that's because of your efforts, Rosa. And many people don't know that, but it's because of you that we've got Bloomberg, and we're working with Harvard now, and all of that. So I was really proud of the direction that the city's going. We are seen as a leader in the entire country for how we're addressing homelessness and affordable housing and all of those other challenges that we have. We do need to have this be a regional approach. We need to get Chandler and Scottsdale and Mesa and Phoenix on board with us so we can work together, because the homeless just don't just all come to Tempe. You know, they're everywhere. So we need to have a regional approach. So I'm really excited about that, and how we're doing things. I'm excited about that we've expanded our HOPE efforts. I know that we're also, I encourage partnering, continuing with TCAA, and so we can work with them and just keep getting the benefits out there and the homeless housed, and take care of both the homeless and the people that aren't homeless in our community. And I know we can do that. And you and your team are doing a great job, and the police is doing great, human services is doing great. So I just can't thank you enough for all your efforts. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams.
I appreciate that. So with that, I'm going to do my top 10. And I know that we do have some, some chat. And so if there's chat questions, we will get to you. And I really wish this could be, in person, but hopefully next time we'll be in person. So for my top 10, here's what's happening in 85281. So number 10, North Tempe Character Area Plan. The North Tempe Character Area Plan is approved. It was approved on December 9th. So very excited to focus on what the community wants and how they want their land used up there. And it's going to be used by boards, commissions, and Tempe City Council. So if you want to find out more about your character area, it's tempe.gov/character areas. That's tempe.gov/character areas. Number 9, the city continues to do COVID vaccinations and booster shots at schools, churches, and nonprofit organizations around the city. That's another thing that Rosa and Chastity has taken the lead on. So we're getting out there, we're getting people vaccinated. It's been enormously effective. So if you want to check that out, it's tempe.gov/coronavirus. Number 8, sports complex RFP in process. So there is a RFP out there, and so that's going to be at tempe.gov/priest RFP. So that's they're looking at a sports complex renovation. Number 7, more help for the homeless has been approved, as we've talked about tonight. We've gone from 9 staff to 11 staff. Also, the Arizona State University is paying for 2 of those staff members. So that's really exciting that we're starting to partner more closely with ASU, and we need to keep that going, that's for sure. Number 6 is the county island development. Many of you know that I led the effort to annex the county island, and I continue to work with people that are involved or interested in developing it even further. I'd like to see some public spaces out there, a nice park, just all kinds of really good things. Dog park. I know with the new banding project that's going on, that is at Curry and Miller Road, and that's the 17 acres on the far east side. And with that, they're going to have a couple dog parks in there also in that complex. So we have 17 acres annexed with 60 to go. So we're working on making our way and kind of cascading it down towards Scottsdale Road. Number 5 is park update. We are looking at more park next for updating it and fixing it up. If you're interested in providing feedback, you can go to tempe.gov/park updates. Number 4, if you're going on a road trip around Tempe, we want you to get there fast. So check out tempe.gov/street closure so you don't get stuck in traffic. We've been able to secure more money into our pavement improvement projects. I'm proud that I was one of the persons that led that effort because our pavements have been falling apart for many years now, but we're starting to get more pavement projects. So with that, that's temporary, problem with traffic, but it's going to be worth it in the long run. So just go ahead and go to that road closures, then you can find out where the construction's happening so you don't get stuck. Number 3, residential garbage collection delays. So we've been hit very hard with COVID in our solid waste division, which affects your garbage. So what we're asking is if your garbage does not get picked up on the day it's supposed to, leave it out there and hopefully the next day it will be picked up. So don't forget about just leaving it out there, and we're going to get to it as soon as we can. We've lost a lot of staff. Coronavirus has been really hurtful, but we feel like we're on the road to recovery now. We've hired a lot more staff, and I think we're going to be very successful in picking up your garbage on time. So that's just about the delays. And if you have questions, you can go to tempe.gov/solid waste to check out what's happening, or you can give them a call at 350-430-4311. If your garbage hasn't been picked up for a few days, just go ahead and reach out to them and let them know that perhaps your can was even missed. That can happen. They pick up an enormous amount of garbage all the time in our city, so and they do a great job. Also, the city of Tempe is hiring for positions. So if you're interested in becoming a city worker, you can go to tempe.gov/jobs and check that out, because we've got a lot of openings now. I would really encourage people to apply. It's a great place to work, and we need people. So check that out. And number 1, North Tempe calendar. I wanted to go over some important dates with on my North Tempe folks. The second Sundays on Mill, March 13th is the next one. That's on Mill Avenue, and you can go down there. I've been down there. It's really fun. You can walk around the streets. They have different people that are selling all kinds of different things. It's really fun. They think of things that you never even thought of. So I would encourage you to check it out. It's nice weather right now to walk down around there. The Festival of the Arts is coming March 25th through the 27th. That's on Mill Avenue. So mark your date on that. That's always fun to go to too. I usually take my dog with me. And then there's Arizona Dragon Boat Festival, and that's March 26th through the 27th. That's on Town Lake Marina. And then the second Sundays on Mill will be April 10th for the next one. So if you want to check out all the events that are happening, you can go to tempe.gov/calendar and find out what's happening. So with that, does anyone have any other comments on the staff?
Hey,
Okay.
Jennifer, I'm gonna just put up, share my screen as soon as I'm made a
Oh.
presenter with the contact information for you and I in case people want to send us anything, okay?
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, I really appreciate that. We covered a lot of information tonight. I know we did, and everyone was very efficient with their time tonight. I'm impressed. And if no one else has anything else, Kristen, do you have anything, or anyone else, or we'll close it up?
I don't have anything, Councilmember Adams.
Okay, all right. Well, very good then. I wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day, and hope to see you next time in person. So thanks, and have a great night.
If people want to stay on, we'll get that contact slide up right now. Just bear with us.